And we are live for another episode of Pulse of Fins Nation. And I'm just going to go ahead and say that Alfredo Arteaga literally made it at the 2-second return mark.
That's funny.
Before the cameras turned back on. So, Al,
I mean, he was trying for 5 minutes, but
I know. That's why I was like, he's like, you've been having technical issues for a while, man. What's going on?
What's up, Alf?
No, it's not really technical issues. It's that I did a bunch of shows, so I had to change all the mic settings. And it's like 5 different mic settings because I record on Discord, and then I gotta wash the audio through another program. So I gotta change like the settings on like 5 different things so I could get on StreamYard.
Gotcha.
That's the thing. So what happens is that I changed like 2 or 3 settings, and I think that's enough. And then I come in here and it says, nope, you gotta do this and this and that. And I'm like, okay, let me go change this again. And every time I change it, I had to change all of it, and I had to get out of everything so then I could come back in. You know what I mean? So that's what it was.
Gotcha. All right. And a big good morning to Lee Connolly. It's 7:30. Yeah. It's 7:30 at night here in South Florida. So
yes, but it's 12:30, I think.
That guy just said good morning.
Yeah, I think it's 12:30 where Lee is. He's in the UK.
Wow.
I think it's 12:30. He could let us know.
Nice.
So our OnlyFins moderator always in there with a comment or two. So welcome, Matthias. Welcome everybody to Pulse of Fins Nation. I'm your host, Louis Song. That's my co-host, Ron Caniff. Right down there is Alfredo Arteaga, the 3 Yards Per Carry podcast. And we have got a lot of stuff to talk about. You know why? Because Dolphins football is coming. Yes. So there you go. Lee just confirmed it. It is in fact 12:30 in the morning in the UK. But Miami Dolphins football is finally going to be coming back. We are going to be seeing our first preseason game. It's going to be on Friday, yes, at 8 p.m.
7 p.m. No,
7 p.m. I don't remember.
Yeah, what the hell's the time of that?
Well, we're really good hosts of a Dolphin show.
I know, right?
We don't even know when the game is.
Listen, we got lives, man. We got lives.
That's how important
7,
preseason is.
It's at 7 p.m.
7 o'clock. It is 7 o'clock. Yes, and
that tilt that game is at 7 p.m. Yes.
And we also welcome Chris Early into the show. I think his camera is trying to function. Dude, can you hear me?
I feel like his internet maybe not be so happy tonight.
Yeah, I can still see him moving, but I don't hear anything.
Yeah, I don't know. He might need to disconnect and reconnect. I'm not sure.
And now he's stuck. Oh well. So Duke will get back in here eventually. We'll go ahead and we'll just let him sit here for a while until he's able to come back in. There he goes. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about this because now that the Atlanta Falcons are in town, we're actually going to be able to see some real actual football for once. So we're going to be able to enjoy a preseason game. Enjoy being the I guess you put that in air quotes because I know that we're on the one hand, it's so exciting because it's the Dolphins and we haven't been able to see them play actual football in what feels like months.
Preseason is an actual football, but okay.
But that's just it. Preseason is still them playing football on a field with a score and a timer and everything else that we've been looking for. So this is the time where we try to evaluate and see who's going to stand out, who's going to make some plays, who's going to do more than all the other guys who are pushing for roster spots. So what I wanted to talk about right here is I wanted to talk about what exactly is it that we are looking for in this first preseason game. Who are we expecting to stand out?
Before you talk about that, Louis,
yes,
aren't you supposed to read the promos?
Oh my goodness! Yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you, Ron.
You're welcome.
I was so gung ho to get this show going that I forgot to mention that it's brought to you by You Brake Wheel Fix. Who, by the way, You Brake Wheel Fix is the complete automotive wheel solution. Ever parked too close to the sidewalk curb? You Brake Wheel Fix specializes in the repair of damaged wheels from bends, cracks, and curb rash. Or maybe your wheels are faded or peeling. You don't need to replace them, as You Brake Wheel Fix can refinish them to like new. Offering complete refinish options through powder coating, machining, and polishing, You Brake Wheel Fix is the answer to all of your wheel needs. And if you're just looking to give your ride a new look, You Brake Wheel Fix also offers many car customizing options, such as new custom wheels and tires from your favorite brands, performance upgrades, window tinting, and suspension modifications. Located just south of Aventura, you can reach Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or online at youbrakewheelfix.com. They are really active on all social media platforms at You Break Will Fix. So shoot them a DM on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Yes, Twitter. I'm not calling it X. It is Twitter. And get an estimate in just minutes. So don't delay. Go to You Break Will Fix and start customizing your ride to show off your Dolphins fandom today. And this show is also brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is a revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, whether that's the NFL, which thankfully is coming back, the NBA, the MLB, one of each. It's up to you to decide. Just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less than their projected stat. They give you free squares, special Taco Tuesday promos, which, by the way, there might still be time to get the last Max Scherzer taco. And he's going to be, you're going to get a discount on his strikeouts for the game. And there are also Flex Friday specials where you can get your money back if you lose or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. So with offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up if you're any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, this promo code 5, FIVE. Go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with and get started winning today. All right. So, Ron, I just want to go ahead and say thank you for catching me there because I had completely forgotten. You're protecting my money, and I appreciate you for that, man.
Yeah, usually you segue into it and you'll kind of talk about the beginning and then kind of get to it. And I was being patient. I was like, I think he's going to forget the promo. I was like, nah, he'll get to it. Then eventually I was like, no, I don't think he's going to get to it. I think I better say something.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. So anyway.
Before you start the show, I asked Lee a question in the chat, but I don't know if he saw it. And I wanted to ask Lee, and maybe it wasn't him. I feel like it was Lee Connolly there that popped in the chat that had the Dolphins, the big Dolphins wedding that was like all Dolphins and it got picked up by the media. Might have even been national media, but I know at least it was local. I don't know if Lee was still watching. He could just pop into the chat and tell us, Lee, if that was you. All right. Anyway, continue on, Lewis.
All right. So what I'm going to go ahead and I want to talk about is what are we hoping to find? What are we hoping to see in this Atlanta Falcons game? What are we talking about as far as what players we're expecting to stand out? Are we looking for some players to not actually do a whole lot? Are we looking for any surprises, things like that? Lee just confirmed it was not him that you were talking about.
Okay.
And once again, I'm going to try to get Chris Early in here. Let's see if his camera and his microphone are working.
Yeah. Thank God that you were asking him if he was part of that Dolphin wedding and not like something else. Like, Lee, were you part of that? That knife massacre in London on Saturday? And
yeah, wasn't it you I saw on the news running from the cops?
Were you the guy who stabbed like 8 people in a subway on Saturday?
Nice. No, I probably wouldn't have asked that question. I really would want to know.
Yeah,
I'd want to pretend like I didn't know.
All right, Duke, can you hear me?
I don't know.
Duke,
it'd be hilarious if he was like just like standing really, really still.
Yeah, just to mess with us.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be the best man.
It would be hilarious. I should just take a picture of myself and put that like instead of my avatar of OnlyFans right here, and just show up like I'm frozen every single show.
There you go. Yeah. That's it.
So he's muted now. His camera is off. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and take him off for now. Duke, listen. He's gone now. Okay. Okay. Well,
Lee, were you aboard
a
Bama paddle boat? Nice, the Alabama.
I see Welch is in the chat. Welch, were you the guy that started the Chicago fires in 1930?
I feel like Alf is making fun of my question is what's going on here. But
I mean, listen, this is what Fins Nation is about. We talk about stuff and we take the pulse, right? That's what we're doing.
Still kind of the off season.
It's still kind of the off season, yeah. But Welch did bring up an interesting question here. When are we bringing in DJ Fluker? I actually did a show about him earlier today.
Let's talk about Reuben Foster now.
I mean, look. The way I look at it right now, this is what I said during the show. If I'm the Miami Dolphins, I'm looking at any and all options to get the offensive line improved. If that means giving DJ Fluker a second chance in Miami, I'm all for that. I understand the Eagles worked him out. The Patriots worked him out. They didn't sign him. But really, what do the Dolphins have to lose other than maybe a few practice snaps here and there? As far as I'm concerned, I would like to be able to bring him in just to see what he can do. Maybe he has something left in the tank and he's better than whatever other players that are are already on the team have to offer. We don't know until we see it. We did not think that Kendall Lamb, as a walk-on out of nowhere, was going to be suddenly the second team left tackle, right tackle, because he's just apparently that good and nobody knew about it. We didn't think Brandon Shell was going to be good. We didn't think Greg Little was going to be good for any amount of time. But miraculously, as short as lived as it was, those guys did decent. So what do we have to lose with the whole DJ Fluker thing? And I'll go ahead and we'll talk about that. Alf, you're the DJ Fluker expert around here, apparently. So what are your thoughts?
Well, he follows me. He thinks I'm going to get him a job with the Dolphins. Like, I think he's sadly mistaken. Like, these people don't listen to me. Okay. Like, only one time I actually suggested to somebody in the Dolphins, you know what? You guys should sign Zach Bauman. And I remember that I put that on a message board, and they signed Zach Bauman like a day later. He was a cornerback. I believe this was in 2017, 2016, something like that. Trust me, they didn't listen to me to sign Zach Bauman. They won't listen to me to sign DJ Fluker. I don't think it's necessary right now. I think they have tackles. Their issues are at guard, and they're playing 5,000 of them at left guard, and none of them are working out so far. So, at tackle, they've actually been okay so far. And they got Kendall Lamb that gives pretty decent depth. Would I be opposed to bringing in DJ Fluker? No, because, maybe he gives you good depth at one of the guard spots, because he did have good tape in Baltimore as a right guard, but you already have a right guard. But, he'll give you some good depth. So I wouldn't mind bringing him in for a look-see. Everybody else is doing it, so why not us, right?
I mean, that's the thing. The Dolphins already gave him a chance back in 2021. So I was wondering, like, they would have to be giving him a second look. I understand
that's not this.
It's a different regime.
This coaching staff,
it's a different regime. I get it, but it's almost like there's this stigma against letting a player work out a second time, almost. Now, when it comes to certain teams, I know the Patriots love to bring back their older players after they've learned their lessons. Like, do you feel stupid for leaving us yet? They did the same thing just now with Trey Flowers. So he just signed back with New England. So he's back in the red, white, and blue for them. And I know that we were hoping that maybe Trey Flowers will be available later down the line just in case something happened. But it looks like New England scooped up one of their classic defensive players. So that's not going to happen anymore.
He's a nice player, but who gives a shit? He made all his money in Detroit. He gave us one good game last year.
Yeah.
He's just depth, and I think that they found some depth again on going the UDFA role in Jalen Twyman. Like, I think he's going to be a player, and Deshaun Hand had a play today as well. So I think they're going to be fine there as well. And Brandon Peely made some plays, so. I'm still holding out hope that, maybe they, before the season starts, they go out and they get a true nose tackle to back up Raekwon Davis. But if not, who knows? Maybe they hit on Peely as well. They've done a pretty decent job filling in around the edges on this.
Well, this is like the you've been saying a lot lately that Brandon Peely has actually been doing some good stuff there. It hasn't been like one isolated incident. You've been saying in many reports that Brandon Peely does X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, he plays with a lot of effort, man. And sometimes effort's enough when it's a guy that's just going to play 10 snaps. Remember, you're not looking for a guy. You're not looking for Vince Wilfork. You're not going to find him.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You're looking for a guy that's competent enough to play 10 snaps in a game, mostly in run support. You don't even need him to rush the passer. You just need him to be big. That's all you need him to do. If he could do that, then, man, that's already half the battle, really. But I think that's one of the easiest spots in the NFL to fill, and none of those guys are going to sign right now. I've explained that before. I know those guys. None of those guys are interested in a long training camp, so those guys are going to be available the week of the Charger game, and they won't even need them for the week of the Charger game to be truthful. They'll probably need them against the Patriots, against Denver maybe.
All right. So Duke is coming back in. He's trying to say that he's not quite ready yet. He's making some adjustments. So
okay.
yeah,
Well,
that's why I was like,
gotcha.
hold on.
Hey, that's why we're fighting back and forth to put Duke
It's
in.
like,
or
no,
not.
he's out. He's in. He's out. He's in.
Alf, question for you. I want to get back to the offensive line because I know we have you for a short period of time. You got to move on and do something. Don't you think it's time, though, like the Dolphins are getting close to, maybe it's not time yet, but after this first preseason game, don't they need to kind of decide who they think their better left guard is and start giving them plurality of the snaps at left guard with the first team? I mean, we're getting close to that time, right? Enough of this musical chairs.
They're going to have to decide on their best 5 eventually. And when I say eventually, I'm saying before they go to Houston. Okay.
Yeah, it feels like 4 of the 5 isn't a question in their mind. Even AJ, it seems like he's
settling in.
He's the right tackle.
Yeah, he's settling
right
in. Yeah. And if he, if he doesn't work out, I've seen enough of Kendall Lamb to think, you know what, we're okay.
Yeah,
we have enough depth. And if anybody else out there is like, yeah, but what if Kendall Lamb also goes down? I was like, well, if you're gonna lose both tackles, there's not a team in the NFL that has 4 competent tackles. Okay. Right now you have 3, and that's good enough as of right now. So I would say, yeah, we're about a week away from, like, you got to start deciding on who's your best 5. And don't forget that the nuclear option is always there, which is just moving Connor Williams to left guard and starting Dan Feeney at center.
I mean, if injury happened at some point in the season, you imagine that at least for a period of time, we'll probably see that combination at some point, maybe, unless they just put Feeney over in left guard. But we'll see. So give us your impressions overall. I know that you were mostly focusing on the offense. I saw a lot of him and Han and oh woe is me stuff going on, but I mean, I saw all your camp notes. And I was expecting to see a complete crap show based off people's reaction. And I'm like, this was actually pretty good. I mean, it's not like we played 70 snaps on the first team and we're playing, you know what I mean? It's just like, this was like the equivalent of maybe getting half a quarter in. I mean, we had a couple touchdowns. I mean, there was a pick, but Dolphins are trying new stuff, and picks are going to happen anyway. I mean, they're just going to happen.
Yeah. And we really didn't do any game sim. Okay, the only game simulation you did with first teams, first team versus first team, the Dolphins drove for a field goal. So 1 for 1 and a field goal. That's not good. And they drove it to the 24-yard line. So
yeah,
so they got actually 23-yard line because it was a 40-yard field goal made. So that's not terrible. Now they didn't score a touchdown, so I guess they suck. They didn't score a touchdown on the only drive that they had. That one drive game simulated with a clock, with officials and everything, and they kicked a 40-yard field goal. So they moved it pretty well. In game situation stuff, I know everybody's, Omar Kelly said it was a 15-yard completion. The video shows that the ball was completed 30 yards down the field. So we could start there. There's at least 30 yards. But I saw that play. I think Robbie Chosen scored. So that's a 50-yard touchdown in a game situation. And then the Tyreek Hill one that Mike White hit him deep past the zone against what looked like, man, it was hard to tell, but it looked like it was quarters because he got behind one of those guys. That was another touchdown. That was another 50-yard touchdown. So do these not matter? I think everything came down to those red zone interceptions. Those are bad plays, man. And the guards were bad. And I'm talking about all of them. Robert Hunt had a false start, and then Isaiah Wynn decided, you know what? I'm not going to let you be the only guy to have a drive killer.
Too.
I'm going to have one right now, right after you. And that was before they had a coverage sack. So, they had, and what pissed me off is that after you ended up on 3rd and 20, okay, after all these penalties. And then Tua completes a 16-yard pass to Robbie Chosen. So, you essentially blew what would have been a first down.
Well, how many times last year? I mean, it was I'll be honest. Last year was the first time, and this is the honest truth, and this isn't hyperbole. So anybody that's watched football and watched Dolphins football for 30 years remembers back in the day when we'd get into 3rd and 12, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 13, 3rd and 9 situations. Back in the day, you were like, you felt pretty good that you were going to pick it up. And for about 25, 30 years, I felt like we didn't have a prayer. And all of a sudden last year, I like by halfway through the season, I was like, oh, 3rd and 13, we got this. And then we get it. It's like it's a different world now. We're in a different situation with the offense. I don't see any reason why all of a sudden, oh, this offense is just going to start playing bad and not know what it's doing and not be the offense of last year. Now it probably won't look exactly the same. It's clear they're adding in some new things and they're wanting to probably do more, get a lot more yak. I think that's the big thing. They're trying to turn this offense to a bit more like what the San Fran offense was that McDaniel came from, and not just, hey, I got these 2 wide receivers and an accurate quarterback. Let me throw it 20 yards in the middle of the field every day. It's clear that they're making that change, and that change is going to come with a little bit of growing pains. But you can tell in the practice, you could tell here that it's more about the yak and less about forcing Tua to throw these extremely accurate 2020, which he can do. And I will say only he can do in the NFL, but one of the few guys that can do it on a consistent basis. I mean, it's clear they're making some changes. I'm just truly not worried about this offense at all. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm just not worried.
Yeah, the only concern was, they just did not look sharp, and you wanted them to eviscerate the Atlanta Falcons. They still have another opportunity tomorrow.
But okay. I'm glad that you're talking about the Atlanta Falcons, and Alf, you know this better than anybody. Am I not the guy who has been touting the Atlanta Falcons as an extremely underrated team the entire offseason?
Yeah, they're a good team. Like, they're not a bad team.
Yeah, everybody, they're going to win that division. I'm telling you right now. Everybody thinks I'm crazy.
That division is absolutely awful.
They're going to win that division.
That division is absolutely awful, but they're the best of those teams. So they're going to win that division. I will say this. They're a team that has a really good offensive line that runs the ball very well. Dolphins did very well today on defense. Okay? If you notice, nobody's complaining about the defense today. They were actually really, really good today.
And that's huge, because we talked about in this defense, this new defense, that one of the maybe the soft spots of it is that we wouldn't stop the run as well as we did last year, especially in this new Fangio offense. And we were going against classic. When I say classic running game, I mean a classic running game means it's not because your quarterback takes off. So the top 2 running teams last year were Baltimore and Chicago. So let's kick them to the curb because of their quarterbacks. Number 3 on that list was Atlanta, and that was their running backs. And now they've added Bijan Robinson. So the fact that our defense didn't really allow them to run the ball, I mean, man, that's the number one thing I was looking for, is what would happen. And I said that yesterday in the OnlyFans chat. What's going to happen? That's the big thing I was looking at. Is Atlanta going to be able to run this ball all over us? And the fact that they just couldn't really get anywhere, man, that's huge. That's huge. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't even worry about the offense. The offense is going to make, man, we got the talent. We've got the play caller. Don't worry about the offense. It's going to get there. I understand it wasn't sharp, but it's going to get there. It's the defense, man. That's huge that we were able to stop that. I hope that we do the same tomorrow.
Yeah, and tomorrow, you still have another day tomorrow. So you want to see the offense be nice and sharp tomorrow. So I wouldn't worry just yet. You still have time. And that time is leading into next week, when you have another joint practice with the Houston Texans and another preseason game after that. So you have so much time to get this right. It wasn't perfect today, but it wasn't terrible either. Okay, there was some nice throws made today. It's that everybody has the memory of them absolutely annihilating the Tampa Bay Bucks last year, and then actually doing a game simulation against the Philadelphia Eagles, where they played 2 drives for each team, and the Dolphins won that 10-0. Okay, this year they played Atlanta, 1 simulated drive, and it was 3-0. So
yeah.
Who's to say if they play a second simulated drive that the Dolphins don't score a touchdown with their first team offense and they win the game 10-0? That's a possibility. The thing is that last year people got spoiled by that absolutely embarrassing show by the Bucks, and we later found out, okay, that team was not good, and they had a home game, by the way, because they play in that horrible division. Okay. But then you saw them against the Eagles, who went to the Super Bowl, and the Dolphins looked like, they looked spectacular. They won 10-0 in a game simulation. What they were doing today was a lot of situational stuff. It was just not conducive to actually learning anything about a football team, because it just wasn't game simulated stuff. And remember, nobody was tackling to the ground either. So, it's hard to tell when officials are the ones that are spotting every single play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lewis, what you got, man?
Honestly, I wanted to talk about the preseason game coming up because I want to talk about what it is that we're going to be looking for. What kind of stuff are we going to be expecting from certain players? Like, I'm pretty sure, I know that Mike McDaniel said he hasn't made his decision yet, but I'm pretty confident that there's going to be an abundance of players who are not going to play in this first preseason game. So we're going to probably see a lot of Mike White. We're probably going to see a lot of Skylar Thompson, for better or worse.
It'll probably be split 50-50. I would think, like, first half Mike White, second half Skylar. I don't think we'll see two at all. That's just my guess, though.
Yeah, I would assume that that's going to be the case. And what I really want to figure out is who is going to stand out and who do we think is going to stand out. So Alf was actually at the practice. He was able to see everything as it was happening. So one player that I'm very curious about, and is somebody that a lot of people are curious about. Ron, you are probably very curious about this particular individual. How much do we expect to see from Devon Achane at this point? Because from reports that I'm hearing from other folks is that Savon Ahmed still has the edge on everything.
Savon Ahmed has the edge on what?
Yeah, the edge on number 4. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
What are you reading these reports? Who are you reading?
I refuse to out them. I refuse to out them
something?
because I don't want to get anybody into trouble, especially us.
You don't want to get them in trouble for putting stuff out in public that's garbage? Okay. Well, I guess that's fair enough. Go ahead, Alf. I'm sorry.
If anybody's looking at the teams, like who's on second team and who's on third team and that type of stuff right now, they're doing it wrong. All we know is that as of right now, Mostert is probably the starter. Okay? We probably know that.
Yeah.
We also know that Jeff Wilson is probably going to get the ball. Okay? What we also know is that they seem to use Devon Achane a lot. So,
what are they using him as? Is he being a traditional running back, or is he
they're running the football with him?
They're
running the football with him
between the tackles, right? That's right. I wanted to ask you that question.
Yes,
didn't he have a between the tackle touchdown?
Today they ran a lead with him from the 5-yard line, and he made it. He got through the hole, and at the goal line was a safety, and he ran over the safety for a touchdown.
I'm telling you, this kid can run between the tackles. I know everybody keeps saying he's too small. I'm telling you right now, he is going to be able to run between the tackles. I get that he's smaller, but it's going to happen.
Look, I'll tell you this. I know PrizePicks is a sponsor of the network. If there is a number on this game on Friday of Devon Achane on PrizePicks, take it, because I think he's going to put up big numbers every time. There's been some times where he's gotten the ball, and you could see how he is a tackle away from maybe going 60 yards. Like that's happened more than a few times. In the scrimmage on Saturday, there was a play where Trill Williams put his hand up like, "Oh, I got you." And if you watch the angle of that run, there's no way on earth Trill Williams would have gotten him. And that itself would have been a 63-yard touchdown. So, he's a traditional running back. And one great sign is that he's actually had a very good camp in pass protection. So, and that's how you get onto the field. If he actually is good in pass protection, then they're absolutely set, because then they got a guy that they could play on third down that's going to be absolutely dangerous when they throw him the ball out in the flat. This guy says, do the Dolphins really need Dalvin Cook? No, they never did. Now what percentage do I see it happening? Well, they're the favorite to land Dalvin Cook, but Dalvin Cook has to say yes to whatever offer is on the table, and he hasn't so far. And remember, he gets paid $2 million for doing absolutely nothing if he wants to. Okay, so any offer that he makes, any offer that he takes away $2 million away from him. So it has to be the offer has to be worth his while. Okay,
yeah.
So it's not completely out of the possibility that he's just waiting for somebody to get hurt somewhere.
I mean, there were some scares. There were some scares in Dolphins camp already. Jeff Wilson was a little banged up during the scrimmage. We've been seeing that.
people said, "Oh, he left to the locker room. He left to go take a shit."
Oh, okay. Well, never mind then.
His bowels were banged up. Alf,
Because he came right back and he played like 8 snaps in that scrimmage, so he was fine.
well,
Devon
Alf,
Achane was the one that left before the scrimmage because he was, I don't know if he was tight or whatever, but he warmed up and then he got out of uniform for the scrimmage. But he got, he did some rope work and some work on his upper body during the game. And then he was out there today, so he was fine. So it was just some tightness, I guess, on Saturday.
Mr. Alf, I believe there's some people at OnlyFans waiting for you to MC the trivia.
Yes,
So it is that time.
The trivia championship. We're giving away $300 in prizes, cash and prizes. So only $3 a month. You could join on our Discord. It's the pinned tweet on our 3 yards per carry Twitter account or our 3 yards per carry X account, whatever the hell you want to call it. All right, guys.
All right, Alf. Thanks for coming.
Later.
All right, so that was Alfredo Arteaga. So now I want to go ahead and talk about the actual game with you, Ron. So I know that we tend to look at the preseason, and while at the one hand we are excited because it is still Dolphins football and we have something to look forward to, on the other hand, we are also looking at it and just saying, well, it's still the preseason. It doesn't really amount to a whole lot. So I wanted to get your thoughts on if there's anything at all that you're going to be looking for as far as how you're going to evaluate things, how you're looking at it. Is there anything that you're going to be keeping an eye on during this game?
Well, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to keep saying the same thing I've been saying. First and foremost, I'm watching to see Mike White and how well he does. I'm told he's a gamer. That don't look at him in practice.
He's a playmaker and a shot caller.
Preseason game is a game, right? So let's see what you got, because we haven't seen Tua make it through 17 or /16 games yet without having some kind of injury and missing time or game. So I fully expect to see Mike White take some snaps this season, maybe even start some games. So, and it's going to be important because it was just such terrible backup quarter play last year. Plus the backup quarterback would come in and then get hurt too. I think that happened every time but once. So there was that as well, but be that as it may, we just had bad backup play, and we need Mike White to be able to come in and not shit the bed. I mean, that's just the truth. So I'm going to be watching him for sure. I see that Leo pointed in here, and I agree. Leo, starting corners on Friday, Igbo and Cam Smith. Yeah, I think that's probably what they'll do is the starters. Maybe they'll put Kohu at the nickel. I'm not sure. Not sure what they're going to do. That should be interesting for sure. Lewis looks like he's frozen. Lewis, are you frozen? There you go.
I'm here. I've been having Xfinity issues ever since I got here. So it's the worst thing, and it's the worst.
Yeah,
it's the worst.
Xfinity internet, not the best.
No.
But I agree too. Igbo's another one that, well, if he's going to be possibly the starting corner opposite of X while Ramsey's out. Let's see what that looks like in preseason.
Listen. Hold on.
What they're saying, man.
Hold on. I did a show about how Noah Igbenogany might be actually good now, and I gave him his flowers for that.
I didn't say he was good. I said he was going to be the starter opposite of X. None of that in there said I thought he was going to be good.
No, Ron, no, because that would imply that they're just going to go ahead and dismiss Cam Smith and Kader Kohu, who we both know are good players at this point.
Well, who's going to play the nickel? I mean, you need Kohu to play the nickel.
Okay, you can let Cam play on the outside and let Kohu play the nickel. You don't need Noah Igbenogany to be the starter yet. However, to Leo's point, that is one of the things I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on in this preseason game. I want to see Noah Igbenogany do it against players that do not belong on the team. Let me contextualize what I just said there, because sometimes I say words and they don't come out the way I want them to. So what I'm looking for is for Noah Igbenogany to do it against other teams' players, not the same guys that he's been going against in practice for the past several weeks now. I want him to be able to do it against somebody who is not somebody who he knows is not like, I'm sure he's gone against Tyreek enough times, and that's always going to be a challenge. But he knows Tyreek. He knows what to expect from Tyreek. He knows what to expect from Jalen Waddle now because he's seen the offense enough to know, okay, this is probably this formation. I have an educated guess that he's probably going to do this thing right here. So you can kind of do that once you've seen these guys enough times, and you do it every single day. Against the Falcons, even as vanilla as it is still going to be something different than what you've been seeing for the past several weeks. So I need to see Noah Igbenogany stay and make some plays against the Falcons offense, not just against the Dolphins. That's what's going to convince me that there is some hope for Noah Igbenogany.
Yeah, no doubt. That's definitely something to watch for sure. Plus that Needham's not back. What they're doing at cornerback, we still have lots of talent, even with Needham still injured. And who knows when he's going to play. Obviously, Ramsey's out till November, December, hoping that maybe it'll be November. But we still have lots of talent. So let's see what they do there in those spots.
I want to see what Eli Apple does, if anything.
Yeah, we got Eli Apple too. See what happens there. Yeah, it's definitely interesting at the cornerback spot right now. See what's going to happen and see if these guys can hold it down till we get reinforcements.
Yep. And I also want to see some of these guys on the linebacker spots because I've been so curious to see what Andrew Van Ginkel looks like as an inside linebacker. I've been hearing a lot of things from Alf and recent camp reports about Aubrey Miller. I want to see exactly what it is that he's going to be doing. Yeah. So he actually took Atlanta Roberts' number 52, and apparently he's doing a fantastic job with it. So I want to see exactly what he has to offer on that front. There's a lot of other guys. Channing Tindall. We've been hearing a lot about Channing Tindall. I want to see what Channing Tindall does. I want to see on the offensive line. I want to see what Austin Jackson does. I want to see what he does against actual, because we've been hearing about Alf just came on here literally during this show and said that he was settling into the right tackle spot.
Seems that way.
He seems, yeah, right. But then we get national people. I think it was CBS and Pete Prisco.
Okay.
Who went on to Twitter, and there was a video that was posted that said Austin Jackson was a turnstile. What? That is not.
He didn't. That was talking about today.
I don't know if it was today, but it was.
I was gonna say if it was today. I mean, he didn't have any pressures. He didn't give up any sacks. He didn't give up anything.
But that's what I'm saying. Why?
Must have been talking about a different day.
But that's what I'm saying, though. It's always so convenient that it's always the one day that he has a bad day that everybody happens to be watching. Or
AJ has one day. Austin Jackson's had way more than one day a bad day.
Had way more, but we've been hearing that he's been having good days. But that's all. The only thing anybody remembers is the bad stuff. Nobody wants to hear it when he says, "Oh, he had a good day."
Well, yeah, but it's let's start with this. It's tough on an offensive lineman, especially tackles, because you can go out there and block for 67 plays and just seal it up, man. Every play you're blocking for the run, you don't allow anything, and you can allow a pressure and 2 sacks, right? On 3 plays out of 70, and you had a shit day. It's tough. You have to be extremely, extremely consistent to play the tackle spot. I mean, to play the offensive line in general. It demands more consistency, probably. I would say offensive line, those players, it demands more consistency than maybe any other positions besides punters and kickers. I know that sounds weird, right? Like you miss one field goal and you might have had a shit day as a kicker. It's possible. Have one bad punt and you're like, oh, our punter's garbage. I mean, that's just you let a sack through or 2 and you did everything else right on every other play, but you let a couple sacks through, you had a bad day. It's tough on these guys. Trying to find 5 guys to play the positions they need to play as consistent as you need to play them is not easy. So you just kind of have to, and that's why most teams don't have 5 great guys. And the few teams that do end up with 5 great guys,
they usually make it to the Super Bowl.
Like the Eagles, for example. Yeah. I mean, that's the dream, right? But it's not realistic. So the hope is that Austin Jackson will just play all these little spurts of playing well. Like you were big on, was it the 14
snaps against
New England Patriots last year? I know you were big on that. Like we just need to see more and more stretches like that from him. But we're good. there's just no way you can't tell me that AJ is not going to just have, some bad days and
No,
some
I'm
bad
sure he'll still
snaps. I
have
think
bad.
he will for the rest of the season. Might as well just get used to it, or for the entire season. Just get used to it. Let's just hope he has longer and longer stretches of being consistent. That's what we're looking for. I'm not going to get hung up on, he had a bad day or he had a bad series, what have you. I think it's just, you kind of have to expect it at this point. At least, but he's better than what Eichenberg is giving us at left guard. It would seem, based off reports.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath even a little bit for Liam Eichenberg at this point. I don't know what it is with him. I don't know what's going on with him, but he can't seem to string together any sort of consistency.
So that'll be another thing to watch too. Will be Wynn. How does Isaiah Wynn do? And,
are we convinced that Isaiah Wynn will play?
I'm not. I don't know. He may not, but if he does play, obviously he'll be one to watch. He may not because I know he was coming. Did they pick up his 5th-year option? Johnny B. Good ass. No, they did not.
Are we? Who's the fifth? Who was the?
He's
fifth?
talking about Austin Jackson. Yeah.
No, they did not.
They did not pick up his 5th-year option. So
absolutely.
So he'll be a free agent at the end of the year, and if he has a great season, probably play himself off the team. That would be kind of our luck. I mean, I'll take it because we're. I'd love to see AJ have a good season this year, even if it means losing him, because we have a really, really good team this year. Windows like that are small. You never know. So having really good, consistent play where AJ or Austin Jackson plays his way off the team, okay, then it is what it is. We'll have to find another right tackle, I suppose. Because if he has a bad year, that doesn't help us. And we probably wouldn't re-sign him anyway. Chances are Austin Jackson probably won't be a Dolphin next year either way. Going to have a bad year and we're going to move on because he's a free agent. He's going to have a good year and we're not going to want to pay him what somebody else probably will. I mean, it's just likely where we are. So 1 year, let's get as much as we can out of Austin Jackson.
Yep, that's what I'm looking at it as. I'm not holding my breath and saying Austin Jackson's going to somehow be a Dolphin next season. He would have to have such a stellar season that you can't afford to lose him. And I don't think
but then we couldn't afford to keep him in that case because we just have so many other important things to do.
We keep hearing about that, man. And I'm just saying up front, Chris Greer and Brandon Shore, it's not that it's not real. I think that it's real, but there are ways around it. And Chris Greer and Brandon Shore have proven to be absolute experts at that whole process. So I feel like that they could find a way to make it fit if they really needed to. They managed to make Jalen Ramsey fit. And we thought they were already short on cash, and somehow they made Jalen Ramsey fit. How did they do that?
Yeah, well, we'll see. I might be putting the cart before the horse here, talking about how are we gonna afford AJ's big contract next year after he has some Pro Bowl year in 2023.
I mean, it's something to discuss, though, isn't it, Ron? Because let's put it this way:
how are we going to keep Noah? He'll be worth $20 million a year.
We're the pulse of Fins Nation, right?
Yes.
I keep posting. It still kills me. I've been posting Fins Nation every morning at 5 a.m. And I always go back to see, okay, how many people have viewed it? Because that's what you do when you post YouTube videos. You try to see how many
likes. What you do when you have a podcast. Yeah.
Yes.
How many downloads?
You want to see your analytics.
Yes.
I post videos about Tua, and I get maybe 300 views. I roast videos about Jalen Ramsey, and I get maybe 250 views. I posted videos about Channing Tindall and Austin Jackson, and I got well over 1,000-something views for Austin Jackson and Channing Tindall. That's where the pulse of Fins Nation is right now. They want to know about Austin Jackson. They want to know if he's good.
That's all everybody's talking about. Is we've spent the last 15 minutes now.
But it's specifically about him though, because I posted a video this morning about DJ Fluker. Nothing. No one cares. So it's specifically those guys. They want to know about those guys. And I'm curious to know what it is about specifically those players that makes everybody talk more than anybody else. We have other players who we want to hear about. We want to watch. We want to hear. Don't we want to watch Eric Ezukanma? Don't we want to watch all these other? Don't we want to watch Braylon Sanders after what happened last season? Don't we want to know if we're going to see some miracle with maybe Tanner Connor or Elijah Higgins about whether or not they're actually going to be useful tight ends, if they're going to be able to transition to the position and become that Mike Gesicki-ish role in some regard?
Yeah.
Apparently not. All we care about is Austin Jackson.
I think it kind of goes like this in the season. Now, let's say your season's going well during the season. If your season's going well, mostly people are going to focus on who's playing good. Oh man, this guy had a great game. Oh, this guy was sick. Oh, this guy played so well. Oh, did you see these tackles? Oh, Christian Wilkins was a monster. Oh, Tua was playing out of his mind. Tyreek's a freak, can't be stopped. But in the offseason, people have a tendency to focus on where they see the weak spots. You're not focused on Tyreek because Tyreek's going to be good. You know what I mean? You're not focused on Waddle. You're not focused on the guys that are going to be good. You're focused on the stuff you're worried about. So we want Channing Tindall. Did I say his name right? Yeah. We want Tindall to be good. We want to make sure that pick didn't seem like it's a waste. So there's going to be a lot of focus there. We're extremely concerned about the right tackle spot. So obviously we're going to focus on Austin Jackson. We're concerned about the left guard spot. So we're focusing on the battle. I guess we want to call it a battle between Eichenberg and Wynn, if that's what's happening right now. We had Jalen Ramsey and we were like, cool, we're excited about Jalen Ramsey. Nobody was like focused on him. We were just excited about it. Now he's gone. Now we can't shut up about Noah. Is Noah going to be good? Is he going to be bad? Is he going to play? Is he going to start? That's just kind of how it goes. But then once the season starts, the focus goes on when you win, the players that played well. When you lose, the players that played like crap. And that's just kind of how it goes. I think it's just a different focus in the offseason. The offseason lends to focusing on weak spots and the stuff that you're worried about. And are you filling those holes? And why are they taking that $13 million and signing Jason Peters to the right tackle? Or why aren't we just giving DJ Fluker a shot at guard? Or right? It's all of that. That's just the way it kind of works, I think. Just from years of being a guy who focuses on the Miami Dolphins 12 months a year, that's kind of how it goes for me, right? And in free agency, right? It starts in March in free agency. In free agency, you're not focusing on the guys you have. You have them. You're automatically thinking, oh, we need to get this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Why? Because we need to replace ABC, or we have holes here, or we need competition for this player and this player. It's kind of how it works out. The draft, we need to fill more holes. We need more competition. We need to shore up weak spots. So the whole offseason just lends itself to that mindset.
I understand what you're saying, but the problem I have with it is that you mentioned DJ Fluker again. And I just finished saying nobody cared about my DJ Fluker video.
Well, I brought it up because it was brought up in the chat. So somebody
out there. I mean, I got a few views. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's like 2 views ever since 5 this morning. But it's like the level of discrepancy with the Austin Jackson and the Channing Tindall thing. And Johnny Be Good posted that it's because of the draft capital that we care about these players. I mean, I get the Austin Jackson part of it. I get the Noah Igbenogany part of it. But Channing Tindall was a 3rd-round pick. Like what draft capital at that point are you talking about? Is it just
3rd, 4th? To me, this has always been my mindset. Your picks rounds 1 through 5. Those are players that could all end up being either real key role players to starters for you.
But after a certain point, you start like taking flyers on guys. Channing Tindall was drafted because he has athletic ability coming out his ears, not because he was a ready to go linebacker. That was. You
also want to consider too. Last year, we pretty much had 2 picks. I mean, for the most part, we had a 3rd and a 4th round. We chose Tindall and Eazy-E, and neither one of them could get them damn selves on the field last year. Now, we get why Eazy-E couldn't.
Greer said that was by design.
I understand that, but I get that. But they couldn't get themselves on the field. So when we see Noah could hardly get himself on the field last year, and we had no cornerbacks. We had special teams guys we were starting, guys off the street. And Noah still couldn't get on the field. So, and we spent a 1st rounder on him. AJ, we spent a 1st rounder on him. So yeah, he's right. I think Johnny B. Good's right. It sounds weird saying that. Johnny B. right on this one. That draft capital's big. We know that the best teams are built through the draft. We've seen the Packers and at their pinnacle peak, when they were really, really good, there was a period of time, I remember they had 53 players on their roster and only 3 of them were free agents, and all the rest were either drafted or undrafted free agents. And that's how you do it. The Eagles offense last year had 10 of 11 guys they drafted, and they had traded for AJ Brown, right? So AJ Brown was the only guy on their offense last year that they didn't draft. People know, fans know, free agents are great. They can add to your team, but you will never build a team, a full team, through just free agency. If you're missing on draft picks continuously, look, New England is the quintessential example of that.
New England is a dynasty.
You're talking about, okay, they have done in the last 5, 6, 7 years. In the last 7 or 8 years, honestly, they've done a complete crap job of drafting for offense. Defense, they've done better, but now they haven't even really done a great job at that. They have a few little things here and there, but honestly, over the past 6, 7, 8 years, if you look at Bill Belichick's draft history, a lot of these players are busting out a high percentage, and their team isn't very good. As good of a coach as he is, it's not very good. And even in Brady's last year there, that team struggled a little bit more, even with Brady, because they just were bereft of talent, and they were because they weren't drafting well. So it's important. You have to think about the future of the team too. Last year we got really 2 picks. This year we really kind of had 2 picks. I mean, we need to hit on these picks, man, or it's like 2 years we didn't draft. That's what it's like. And that's going to show itself in 24, 25, 26, because you got to have some of these young guys, these young, cheaper guys step up and play some of these roles. They can't all be $3 and $4 and $5 and $10 million free agents, because we just don't have the money for that. So I get why people obsess, if you will, over these players, especially over the players we draft. It makes sense to me, and I think they're right.
To an extent, I agree with you. If you're talking about building a dynasty, then yeah, you have to do it through the draft. But to say that all good teams are built through the draft, the Los Angeles Rams already proved that's not true.
Wait, I get it, but the Rams are an exception. No,
then it wasn't long term. It wasn't long term. No,
but an exception. And they had a lot of good. I had a fantastic coach. They had a lot of good talent on that team already. And then yes, they made some trades, got some guys in there, got a quarterback.
Okay, but Ron
Ramsey won a Super Bowl. But how many other teams can you say have done that? And if Miami wins the Super Bowl this year, do you think if Miami wins the Super Bowl this year, do you believe it would be ultimately because they've done a good job through the draft and filing undrafted free agent, because that is part of the process, right? Undrafted free agents. Or do you think it'll be mostly because of the free agent signings they've had? Which do you think it will be? Or some kind of balance?
I mean, quite frankly, the way that this team is built right now, I would have to say that this team built themselves through trades.
Really? So
I mean, Tua is a draft. Okay. Jalen Waddle. Okay. Raheem Mostert.
Holland.
Javon Holland. There's a lot of players.
Brandon Jones.
Okay, but
Wilkins,
Jones,
Phillips.
Okay,
right?
But on offense,
Jerome Baker.
Aside from Tua, you have Tyreek, you have Raheem Mostert, who's your running back. Yeah, you drafted Waddle.
They drafted
Cedric Wilson was somebody that grabbed off the street. Robbie Chosen is somebody they rocked off the street. Braxton Berrios is somebody
those are
who
your lower
end
street. Guys. I mean, those guys really aren't even starters. Maybe Berrios you could.
Teron Armstead came off
in
the
11
street.
personnel as a starter.
Connor Williams came off the street.
Yeah, absolutely. Our offense is more built through free agency, and our defense is a little bit more built through the draft.
Like we want the defense to do well. We do, and we're going to be keeping an eye on a lot of defensive players during this Falcons game. We're going to be
going to do good this year.
Laramie Tunsil made this team.
Exactly.
Yeah, he basically brought everybody. He recruited everybody after he left. But what I'm saying is that, yeah, okay, you want to talk about there's going to be a balance. Okay, fine. But this offense, at least, and the offense is what we really need to get going, because we already had this feeling that the defense is going to be good. But very few teams actually win the Super Bowl and everything only because of their defense.
Yeah, but we already know that we have a good offense and a talented offense. Like, that's not even a question.
Okay, but we have a talented offense now. If something happens to Tua, season's over.
Well, did I not say the first thing I was looking at was what? What have I been saying all offseason? My number one thing is I'm concerned about, and the number one thing I'm watching. Mike White.
By the way,
Mike White. I will never stop talking about.
Street.
Yeah, obviously, most backup quarterbacks do a lot of times.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. This team, on offense, this team is built off the street. Tua and Jalen Waddle are the only significant contributors on offense that did not come from the street. Robert
Tua,
Hunt, maybe.
That's pretty big, though, Tua. I mean, that's your starting quarterback.
Yeah, it's your quarterback.
Year
Fine.
4, right? This is his 4th year, right? Year 4, and
but as we've continually noted
one of the
over
better
and over
quarterbacks
again,
in the
no
league,
quarterback can do it himself. No quarterback can do it himself.
No doubt.
So they didn't draft up all of his weapons. They grabbed them from elsewhere and said, "Here are your weapons. Enjoy. We bought them from the toy store for you."
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I agree, but I'm just saying I get why people focus on the drafted players and how the draft capital is important to fans, because fans know that it's important to teams. Like, you have to have a decent amount of your draft picks hit, and the bigger they hit, the better your team's going to be. And then you supplement what doesn't with free agents, but there's limits to that. You can't build a whole team that way. And we need AJ,
not long term,
because not long term, because we've spent money on Ramsey and Reek and guys like this. We can't, we couldn't go out and get a big time right tackle. And Armstead, like, we spent money on Armstead and Williams last year, so there's only so much to go around for the offensive line. And it just kind of reminds me, like, we built a pretty expensive offensive line in 08, 09, and in 2010 dismantled it because it was just too expensive. It was a great offensive line, though. I mean, if you guys remember, obviously we're talking about the Wildcat years.
Oh, the Wildcat. Okay.
Yeah. A big part of the reason that Wildcat was so successful was not just because of Ricky and Ronnie. It was that offensive line, but that offensive line was partially bought and paid for, or was going to be expensive to keep based off the guys we drafted. So they kind of had to dismantle it. There's just only so much money to go around at positions or on the team as a whole. I believe personally that the Dolphins have a nice mixture of, and we're not the Eagles or the Packers, or at least the Packers in days past, but we're not just trying to fill 10 holes with free agents. Like, we didn't necessarily fill a hole with Tyreek. Like, we had Waddle, and we had grabbed Wilson in free agency, but we had Waddle. He was our premier wide receiver 1, really good, a top 10 receiver in this league. A lot of guys wish they had Waddle as their wide receiver 1. Tyreek was was an extra. Ramsey was the same thing. These guys were just, oh man, let's really go nuts here and add some super sick talent on the defensive side, like we did on the offensive side the year before, which is kind of the same sort of move. We just didn't have to pay near the draft capital for it. So I think we have a nice mixture, honestly, of drafted players and of free agents. Personally, we'll see how it all works. We need Tua to be on the field, though. I just think that's a given. Honestly, at this point, I think Mike White comes in. I'm just hoping Mike White can come in when he does have to play and play better than Teddy and better than Skylar did last year. That's all. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm not expecting him to come in and be Tua. I just don't think that'll happen.
So, Lenny, I'm sorry, man. Yeah, we're talking about we're going to finish the show by talking about the Falcons game. So I want to talk about this real quick.
All right, talk about the Falcons. I know you got lots of Falcons. Preseason to me is kind of boring, but you talk about the Falcons game.
Okay, wait, hold on. I just need to ask you something real quick.
Yeah.
For you, the draft is boring. For you, the preseason is boring.
The draft can be
boring. The offseason is boring. So what isn't boring for you, man?
The season, you know what? The whole thing was more exciting to me when our team was garbage every year, because this is the only time we were having success. Let's have a good draft. Let's have a good free agents. Let's do look at OTAs. We got some guys doing some things. Maybe this guy's going to come up. Maybe that guy's going to come up and all that. But now that we actually have like a real team for the first time since the 90s, in my opinion, and I understand that 01 we had a real team, but I didn't know that going into it.
Be nice to the Wildcat.
Yeah, I understand that. And then we had the Wildcat, but none of that was expected during the offseason. We didn't know any of that was going to happen. We were just 1-15 when we went into 08 and won the division. No one thought that was going to happen. Brady had just come off of one of the best years. They had just come off of the 16-0 season, right, where they lost in the Super Bowl to the Giants, and Brady threw like who knows how many touchdowns and yards, and Randy Moss was literally mossing everybody, et cetera, et cetera. No one thought that. No one thought the Dolphins defense was going to be as good as it was going into 0-1 and that, man, this team should be a Super Bowl winning team. But Fiedler was a decent quarterback and he couldn't stay healthy. Like he was okay and couldn't stay healthy. No one thought that. This year is different. This is like being a football fan or a Dolphins fan in the 90s. So yeah, this offseason has been boring to me because it's the first offseason where I'm just like, screw this offseason. I don't care. Let's just get to game one because I want to see what this team's really about. Like I'm ready to see this team play because I think they're going to be really good. I'm super excited about the defense, man. Like I am so pumped about the defense. Now, one thing I remember, and I wasn't like first of all, I don't want to say I'm a football connoisseur, period, but I didn't always follow the Dolphins, but I didn't follow the ins and outs of every move and everything all the time back in 2000, 2001, like I do now, obviously. But I just remember, and this was preseason. The first preseason game, I'm like, heck yeah, preseason. That preseason used to get me pumped when I was young, man. I was so excited about preseason because it was, for me, it used to be the start of football season. It's not in my mind anymore, but it used to be. That defense instantly just jumped off the screen to me in 0-1. It just jumped off the screen. And I haven't gotten to see that I haven't had that reaction where I just watching our defense. I'm like, dang, dude, why is the defense so fast? Why are they so good? What the hell? I mean, that was the kind of reaction I had. Now, those who have been maybe paying close attention like I do now wouldn't be surprised. I'm really like secretly hoping to see the defense Friday night and just watch them and be like, damn, that defense is going to be good. I don't know that that'll happen, but man, I'm hoping and wishing and praying that that's what I'm going to see because we already know that offense is going to be really good. Man, if that defense can be what we think, woo, we're going to be a tough team to beat. Be a very tough team to beat. Could really be a Super Bowl contender. So it's, I understand that nobody ever won a Super Bowl because of their defense. Well, in the past, yes. Nowadays, yes, teams have to have good offenses. I don't think it's debatable that the Dolphins have at least a Super Bowl caliber offense. Not saying it's the best offense in the NFL. It's Super Bowl caliber, though. Is the defense Super Bowl caliber? That's probably the biggest question on this team, right? I think that's the Super Bowl and the Dolphins going. The difference could be how good can this defense be? What do you think, Lewis? If you think about what you're watching for, right, from the Falcons game, if we want to tie it into that, we're watching to see, are we watching the first, and when that first snap happens, are we watching the first snap of a Super Bowl season? So what are you looking for? What do you need to see to feel like, man, we might have something?
I need the Dolphins to score points.
Ron,
man.
I don't worry about that.
Ron, I am more distrustful, and it's sad that it's this way, but I'm jaded. I am more distrustful of this offense continuing what it did last season than I am that Vic Fangio is going to turn this star-studded defense into something good.
Why? What reason do you have, as long as Tua's on the field, what reason do you have to think that this
I don't have any logical explanation for it.
Yeah,
it's just gut. I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm scared. There's no
being
no
a
logic
wuss about
in
it,
fear.
man.
There's no logic in fear.
No, there is no. All right, at least you admit that you have an illogical fear that the Dolphins offense is going to be crap. Say it.
That's not
say
crap.
It.
Just
say
that's
I
just
have an
crap.
illogical fear.
I just say that?
I want to hear you say, I have an illogical fear that the Dolphins offense is suddenly not going to be good.
I already gave my thoughts. I'm not going to repeat it again. But anyway,
okay.
So all right.
So that's understandable. I mean, that's okay to be nervous about it. Like I'm nervous. Like sometimes I'm nervous too. Sometimes I think, man, like, am I overhyping these guys in my head? Is the season going to start and they're going to lose to the Chargers 43-3? Like, trust me, doubt creeps in everybody's mind when you're as pumped as Dolphins fans are about this team.
But you know what? I just came up with my logical reason. You just gave it to me. So thank you. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to explain.
You know what? You say it, I'll determine whether it's logical or not.
With the defense, there was nowhere to go but up. So I'm not even a little bit worried. They're going to be better than they were last season.
Everybody says that. I'm going to push back on that a little. Everybody says that, but that defense was the only reason we stayed in that playoff game. It certainly wasn't because of the offense of Skylar Thompson. That defense last year and the things that they did in both games, all 3 games really, but really the first game in the playoff game to make it harder and confuse Josh Allen and make it tougher for him was the reason. So we'll see how well the new defense does against Josh Allen and the Bills. But continue on.
A dead clock is right twice a day.
It's very possible, like a blind squirrel gets the nut. I get it.
So Josh Boyer, like he was able to do a few things. Jam 442. I'm looking for third down situations. Yeah, again, but again, that's the thing that we've been dealing with on defense. I feel more confident now that with all these great players and now one of the best defensive coordinators in recent NFL history leading the charge, I'm much more confident that they're going to be good than I am that the offense is going to continue being on such a tear like it was last season. That's the thing. That's the difference. With the defense, it feels like there's nowhere to go but up. On the offense, there is a lot of downward spiraling that can take place. The question is, will it?
You're worried about him just taking a step back in general, just organically. I guess I get that a little bit. Another thing to think about in Jam 442's comment on I'm looking for third down situations. Something in it just reminded me of this to look for is how much time is left on the clock at the end of every snap on offense.
Yeah.
That is definitely preseason, regular season. I don't care. That is definitely something to watch for because it was a problem and it became more and more of a problem, especially when the backup quarterback was in. When Teddy Bridgewater or Skylar Thompson specifically was in, it seemed like there was more issues, clock issues. And probably some of that is because and Tua, I think even maybe kind of mentioned this, it would get to a certain point where there's a certain amount of time left and Tua would be like, screw this, I'm calling a play. Like y'all ain't going to get it in. And so Tua would kind of keep that from happening and just take over lead. Skylar wasn't going to be like that. He wasn't going to be like, oh, screw Coach McDaniel. I'm going to call my own play. It would be 5 seconds left and he's still waiting for the play. I mean, he shouldn't, but then on the other hand, Mike McDaniel should get the damn play call in. So that is something big to watch for. And that's something that it doesn't matter that it's preseason, right? That's 40 seconds to get a play call in. Doesn't matter that it's preseason or regular season or who's lined up for Atlanta or for us. So something huge to watch for will be how many times are they snapping that ball with like 1 second left because they still just don't have that quite down, especially with Mike White and Skylar Thompson in.
All right, so I'm just going to give away some of my players, some more of my players.
I thought you were giving away stuff. You're like, I'm going to give away what? Really? We're doing giveaways?
No, I'm not doing giveaways. You can have my old Dolphins cup. No, you can't have my old Dolphins cup. My father
can have mine. No, you can't have mine either. Yeah, I think we have the same exact cup, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
I still have the sticker on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Aren't you supposed to
no,
keep
mine
the
does
sticker
not
on
have
it?
the sticker. My father.
So everybody knows that it's Tervis. Wait, Tervis does not sponsor this show.
No, it doesn't.
But go ahead. Go for it, Lewis.
But anyway, players I want to look for, Robbie Chosen. I want to see if he can step up and make himself stand out a little bit. Can Eric Ezukanma continue to stand out from last year's preseason? I want to see... like I said, I already talked about linebackers. I want to see Andrew Van Ginkel. I want to see what he does. I want to see if he can live up to this hype that we've been hearing about inside linebacker and why Vic Fangio decided to drag him back in here and turn him into an inside linebacker. I want to know what that plan was. I want to see what the defensive line is going to look like. Not the pass rushers. I want to see what Brandon Peely looks like. Is he really living up to the early training camp hype and stuff like that? So preseason is at least almost football. Yes, it is almost football, but I'll take it. I'll take almost football. Ron, do you have anybody else? You already said Mike White. Was there anybody else you want to look for besides the obvious ones?
Yeah, White, Noah, just left guard in general. Anybody playing left guard, I don't care if it's on the 5th team. I know there's no 5th team, but I'm watching. So I'm gonna be watching that left guard position
Eichenberg,
like I'm Butch Berry.
Eichenberg, Wynn, Cotton,
Jones. Guys. I want to see who they're putting in there, who's getting what kind of snaps, and what they look like. I'm really curious about that for sure. Tight end play. Do tight ends at least if they're going to be blocking tight ends, then you best be blocking. Like how good is your blocking? Are you helping to spring it for the run? What in general does the run game look like? Last year, and it was interesting, the first joint practice. Wasn't the first joint practice with the Eagles, right? I remember. I think it was the Eagles for the first one, but I don't remember. I remember Mike McDaniel. He was almost puzzled by the way teams in preseason and even in the joint practices were defending him. They were defending Mike McDaniels on reputation. They didn't give a rip shit that Waddle and Hill were the two wideouts. They were going to go in and try and stop the run because why? The one thing they knew about McDaniel was he was the run guru and the run game specialist in San Fran, and they had one hell of a running game. And mostly that was done based off blocking scheme, not necessarily because they had a star-studded running back field. They had good running backs. Well, we have half of them right now on this team. So he didn't get the defenses he was expecting probably till like maybe halfway through the season, until defenses finally decided, okay, I guess we're not supposed to just line up and try and stop the run anymore. We better try and figure out what to do about Tyreek and Waddle. But now it's different. Now teams, defenses are automatically going to be like, no, we're going to recover 2. We're going to play cover 6. We're going to put 2 guys back. You're not beating us over the top, blah, blah, blah. So now, and McDaniel knows that based off the way the second half of the year went. So now they've got to make those adjustments, which means that should open up the run game more than it did towards the beginning of last year and in the preseason and all that. So what's that run game look like? What's the blocking look like? And the tight ends are part of that, since the tight ends ain't going to catch crap, apparently. Couldn't catch cold. And let's see if they can at least help block for the run game. What kind of personnel groupings do they have? I may even grab a pen and paper and see if I can, I'm not an expert, but I pretty much know the difference between 11 personnel and 12 personnel and 20 personnel, etc.
They have or nothing that we'll see in training camp.
So I'm curious how many times do they even run 2 tight ends? And if so, what were those situations where they were just particular situations where it just made sense, where they, running 2 tight ends because it was 4th and 5 inches or something, or, things like that. So I'll be curious to see what kind of personnel groupings they show, mostly how much 11 personnel they show, those types of things. I don't think most of the starters are going to play. I'd be shocked if Tyreek played. Probably won't see Waddle. Probably won't see Tua. Definitely not going to see Armstead. I'd say those 4 I don't expect to see this game. Rest of the offense probably get some snaps in, rest of the starters. And maybe I'm missing somebody there that won't. But those are some of the things that I'll be watching for.
All right. So let's go ahead and wrap it up here. So everybody, thank you all so much for listening. We appreciate you. We're going to be, I think we're going to do pregame stuff before the Falcons game on Friday. So you guys will at least have that to look forward to. We might get some more information as practices continue.
Who's doing 5 Reasons is doing pregame stuff, or I have been roped into pregame stuff?
You have not been roped into pregame stuff. You are free to bow out. I will go solo if I must. But
are you running the pregame?
I mean, I'm going to try.
No, buddy, I'll be there for you, man. I don't want to leave you by yourself. We'll do a Pulse of Fins Nation pregame show. We'll be the pregame show for 5 Reasons if no one else is going to show up. I don't want to leave you hanging high and dry talking to yourself.
I appreciate it.
I know it's one of your favorite pastimes, but I won't make you do it in front of everybody.
All righty. So everybody, once again, thank you all so much for listening. If you haven't already done so, check out You Break Wheel Fix. If you need to get your wheels fixed up, or if you need to give your ride just a new Dolphins makeover, reach out to Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or online at youbreakwheelfix.com. And of course, go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit. All you have to do is choose whether your players that you're choosing are going to go over or under their projected stats. As a matter of fact, today was Taco Tuesday, and it looks like I'm going to win some money, folks. So I'm a very, very happy camper today. So with all that being said, thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you all next week for another episode of the Pulse of Fins Nation.